Hi, class. This is the key terms. These are the key terms for the chapter on collecting your data. Um, the chapter takes you through problems and solutions involved in collecting and recording data. It starts with a complete nightmare scenario, a report from an American sociology student researching in Bangladesh. Everything went wrong. It's kind of hilarious to read about now, but it probably wasn't at the time. The author talks about how to get your questions focused so they actually work on the data you want to find out, so you know what to do next to get the answers. He gets to this question, how many interviews do I need? Like, I know for this class you only need 4 because that's what the paper's assigned, but to get to the answers to the questions you're studying, if you're doing a bigger project, how many interviews do I need? And he raises the issue of how much data you need and suggests that when you're gonna write up what you found, one useful way to do it is called purposive sampling. You choose a case after you've done all your interviews or in the process. You choose a case because it illustrates some feature or process in which you're interested in. He suggests your choice, whatever the case is, be theoretically grounded, constructivist, naturalist. We've talked about all that sort of stuff. We've talked about different theories. He also suggests that you think critically about the boundaries, the parameters of the population you're studying, and you choose your sample carefully on this basis so you can write up, I am choosing this because this, that, and the other thing. You've got to be able to defend why you've chosen your specific case. He also asks, with regard to qualitative research, what questions should I ask? And points out that for surveys, the formal term for a set of survey questions, you're not doing a survey for this class, the predefined fixed set of questions is called a research protocol. In your final paper, you're going to put your prepared set of questions, that has no formal name, that you asked in your interviews. You're going to put all those questions on the last page of your paper as an appendix A to be specific. In your interviews, it's fine if you go off topic. Surveys tend to be much more scripted. I don't know if any of you have ever participated in one. They use this word spurious in the book, and I just love it as a word. Spurious means false. So if you see it, that's what it means. He talks about doing a pilot study. Might have said this before. It's really useful to try out your questions before you go into an official interview. And try out different styles of questioning before you do your main study. This is not for this class. We did our sort of pilot tryouts doing the interviews of each other in class. But the tryout sessions are called pilot studies, and they're really good practice for a project. I always try to do pilot studies when I'm working on a book, just to hammer out all the problems before I get into the moment when it really matters. He doesn't mention this, but it's probably too early in terms of when the book was published, but you should know there are free online transcribers now. So you could put your tape on. I think Google Docs might have one. You don't have to transcribe your interviews for your final paper, but I just thought it might be useful for you to know that this is available and it's free. Focus groups. He tells a little bit of the history of focus groups. Focus groups are a small group of people whose response to something, such as a new product or a politician's image, is studied to determine the response that can be expected from a larger population. You already know this, but it's just kind of interesting, that little bit of history he put in. Focus groups come from Columbia University. It started about 60 blocks up from John Jay in the 1940s. Paul Lazarsfeld was a social scientist, was studying people's responses to early soap operas and to wartime radio propaganda. I mean, in the 40s, there was no TV. And he led what was called the Bureau of Applied Social Research at Columbia University. And he was studying people, and that he had them push a button if they approved or disapproved. Robert Merton, a famous sociologist, joined the project and said, hey, maybe we should just have these people, answer questions about the broadcast and discuss things, and we can study their discussions. Oh my God, the birth of the focus group. Just thought you want to know? Live from New York. The book mentions different types of research access. Covert access, which we discussed when we talked about tea room trade, the Loud Humphreys book. Covert access without a subject's knowledge. And we've really talked about the problems of deception. You can't have informed consent if you're deceiving someone. You only use covert access, as you know, when open and transparent research is impossible. So overt access is access based on informing subjects and getting their agreement. Often there are gatekeepers. Someone introduces you to someone, and that person becomes what's called a gatekeeper. They're the person who can let you know about all sorts of other people who would be helpful to your research. I also like that he threw in impression management. Irving Goffman's idea that you can positively create an impression appropriate to a situation, and you can avoid giving an impression that might pose an obstacle to your access. Like, for example, you might use impression management when you're going to a job interview. You wear a suit and not a hoodie and jeans if you're going to a formal job interview. You're managing their impressions. You want to gain the trust of the people you want to give you the job, or you want to gain the trust of the people you want to study. And so you actually manipulate how you look to gain that trust. He also talks about this idea of relativism, that it's important to appear in your interview not to be judgmental. He says the relativist tendencies of social scientists may allow the researcher to be sincerely non-judgmental, but what does relativist mean? According to Merriam-Webster, we resist taking a position. Oh, actually, no, this is from the textbook. We resist taking a position on anything, since everything is relative to a particular context. We shouldn't be criticizing. We just look at the context and try to understand it. So, thank you, class. Those are your key terms for this chapter, and have a good day.